And we are live.
All right, I'm recording.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the
Why would
American
they do
Green
it to
Pack.
cheer perversity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
And we got an exciting podcast for you this week. Everyone, hold on. It's going to be wonderful. I'm going to talk about lots of stuff and things. If my computer would unfreeze, I could bring up the list of those things. But alas,
Wait. F1's back to racing again after a 3-week break for, well, there's no reasons. It was because things got shifted around because of COVID, so
yeah.
they had to. And it looks like the Canadian GP might be canceled. I'm not sure if canceled in general or just canceled for fans. That is unclear.
Yeah, this Ontario has gone into some kind of hard lockdown because they can't get any. They're like putting police at their borders, like unless you're delivering something or you work there, it's like you can't go anywhere. And Ontario, I don't know how many, and they're also doing the stores where they make you line up in front of them and you got to wait to get in because there's only a certain amount of people. And and you're going to have full employment and do that. Okay. Good luck. It's going to get bloody. There's a reason they didn't do it here again.
Well, it's a state by state thing. Because I remember like California was doing that and that stuff looked crazy.
They were doing it here. People were getting shot. But it was mainly some guy making $9 an hour just getting pummeled by a crowd. It's like, well, then they couldn't find anyone to enforce that because no one's going to do that for $9 an hour unless you give me a flamethrower to hold them back. But then everyone freaks out about that, so you got to pick your battles.
But we are at the
First shot Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a weird thing that happened at work. Everyone was telling me you should go over to the Dearborn Performing Arts Center. They had some flyer up. It's like no residency requirement, Moderna vaccine available. It's like, okay, so I went over there expecting there to be 50,000 people out the door. No, I walked right in. They scanned me, and some cop looked at my ID and took my information and scheduled my follow-up appointment in 30 days. So I have a definite hard follow-up appointment for vaccine 2, and I just walked right in, and some fireman covered head to toe in tattoos gave me my shot. But because I was coming off work and I had my long sleeve shirt on, he's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to roll that up far enough. I was like, I'll take it off. I don't care. So I did. And he gave me the shot, and then I had to sit there for 15 minutes, and they let me go.
Yeah.
So, and I thought that was kind of weird, but I sat there, and about 7 minutes in, I was like, oh, there's where the lymph nodes are in my neck. I can feel them. And then that went away. So, and that was it. Nothing else happened. I didn't even have the stiffness and soreness, but that usually comes more with the second shot. So that was a weird impromptu thing. So now I just got to find my son a shot.
Yeah, the only thing, like, I was like listening to podcasts and there's like more people getting shots, and I was like, yeah, I didn't really have any a reaction. And then like there's like a bunch of people like talking like how it knocked their ass out, and then like there's people on podcasts like, well, if that happens to you, that means your immune system's good, it's working. And it's like, oh fuck, do I not have an immune system?
Yeah, did mine just give up? Did the vaccine go into my body and like it's just like a dead city? Like, oh, there's nothing we can do.
But like I said, well, I guess I didn't say it on here, but I made sure to drink a lot of water.
Yeah, I did too. I always do. So
because your organs need a lot of water to function properly.
Yep. Now there are guys at work that got the second shot, and see, I got mine because you're exactly 30 days after. So it's Thursday to Thursday. Thursday's my last day of work during the week normally. Because there were guys that got the second shot on like Tuesday, guys that never missed. They didn't come in Wednesday and Thursday. They were like, oh, yeah, they weren't like puking their guts out or screaming or hallucinating, but they're like, they felt so weak. There's no way I'd come into work.
Now, is there a difference between the first shot and the second shot, or is it just like the same shot in a distance?
This is the same thing my wife got, and she said the second shot knocked her on her ass.
Okay.
First one she didn't really notice because it's completing some kind of chain of data that your immune system interprets. And some people it doesn't happen to, but some people it does. I've known people at work that got the second shot and came right back in the next day and they were fine. So
You got then like it was a couple days ago the Pfizer CEO came out there and it's like, yeah, in 12 months, 6 to 12 months, you're going to probably need a third shot. It's like, fuck, you just can't win.
somebody made a funny meme. It's like, Pfizer is adopting the Netflix subscription based.
And then some people are speculating that like just the COVID-19 shot is just going to be an additional flu shot. Like we're just never going to get rid of it. It's just going to be a new flu shot. Like, get your flu shot and your COVID-19 shot.
It might be. I don't know.
Never know. Well, just because there's just more variants out there. So
yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that like killed it here was, we were doing fine and then planes started landing from the UK and it's like, why is that being allowed? I thought we weren't doing that. Oh no, it started right at the airport down my road, the B1113 UK variant or whatever. That's what's all over where I live, and that's way more contagious than the regular one.
yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, someone got off a plane from England and brought it here. It's like, I thought we weren't doing that. But okay, fine. I mean, I don't want to take anyone's job away. I get it. I know the airline people need their jobs, but it's like, people are flying in from the fucking UK, and we know that there's, that's the island syndrome there, and it's like, yeah, come on over. It's like, what? I can't even go to Canada now, but people can fly in from the UK. All right. I mean, not that I need to go to Canada for anything, but it's like, when I hear that stuff and it's like, oh, we're going deeper, fourth wave, it's like, yeah, this could have all been prevented. And then we had to open the schools up. It's like full option school. I mean, you can still do remote, but they basically opened all the schools up. And it's like, yeah, everyone's bringing it home to their families from the schools.
Well, actually, I'm not sure if this data might be out of date, but I heard weirdly that the schools are not as contagious as you would naturally think they are, which is boggling to me. But maybe that's because you tell kids to wear the mask and they actually wear the mask, and it actually helps.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. All I know is like I look for things that change. Number one, planes landing from the UK 3 months ago, and it's like, oh, we got the B113. It's like, yeah, no shit. And where'd that come from? Well, Metro Airport. Yeah, okay. So I have to be a virologist to understand that. And then we open up the schools because we say, well, we're having we can't keep restaurants and stuff open even to do pickup because we can't get enough employees. And so we're going to open the schools up so people can get back to work. And then they roll out more enhanced unemployment and stimulus, and guess where no one's going? And I don't blame them because that enhanced unemployment, some people are making more money than they ever have. And it's like they're not going to be like, ooh, do I go out into Corona hell to make sandwiches for assholes? Or do I sit at home and collect $900 a week or whatever you make? It's like, yeah.
And I'm not sure this is probably an old thing, but it's been like, maybe it's repurposed. I don't know, but it's new to me. And it's something I've been hearing about podcasts and like in regards to like all the Grubhub and Uber Eats stuff, which is, have you ever heard of ghost kitchens?
No, no, it's a new one.
It's not haunted kitchens. So what it is like you just have like this restaurant. They have a kitchen. They sell like, say it's Applebee's. So Applebee's is going to sell its Applebee's shit. And then on the side, they create a fake another restaurant of different stuff to cook in the same kitchen. But it's like presented on Grubhub as like a different restaurant.
Oh wow, that's weird. And how does that just is it just more of an efficient way to use their cooking equipment?
Yeah, it's
Uh,
like, and probably you like are like driving interest in like, oh, I hear this hot new thing, and like you're not going to the restaurant, so you don't even know it's coming from Applebee's or whatever.
right.
It's like, yeah, we just specialize in chicken fingers, and it's like a specialty chicken finger restaurant, but it's just dude chicken fingers from Applebee's and maybe throwing some zesty sauce on it or
Honey
something.
habanero or something. Just mix these two together and say it's
And then
something.
like, and then you put it in the styrofoam camera and with like a sticker of your fake restaurant.
That's amazing. Okay. I don't really see anything illegal about that. It's just kind of strange.
Yeah, I don't
False
necessarily like.
advertising, but
I mean, not necessarily, but it's just like I don't know like the logistics of how like this is like this brings in the money. I don't know like how that other
yeah.
than like you're just presenting something new and it's like people go, oh, I'll try something new, and like you're not.
Okay. So we're fringing around false advertising, but not really.
And then
It's just a supply chain logistics chain thing I don't understand about how this makes more money.
well, and I haven't read an article about this, but it sounded fascinating. But like, there was a company, or just a group of guys, that were trying to like basically create a worldwide net franchise based on ghost kitchens.
Okay.
Like, we're gonna create this brand, we're gonna sell it to all these kitchens out there that are using Grubhub right now, and like we're gonna just create a worldwide brand instantly and then like see what happens, and I guess it just completely bombed or whatever.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of again, that's yeah. So you're gonna sell the recipes or interconnect these?
It
Some
sounds like recipe and logo, like that's what you would do. Like that sounds like oh, I think because like then you don't, because you're just using pre-existing infrastructure, so you don't create
right.
anything. You just sell an IP to somebody, like you're
Yeah.
franchising.
Yeah, you're just managing that.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's not that much different from like those combo KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut
Yeah.
things. So
Yeah. That's kind of interesting. I did not heard of that before you mentioned. Now I'm going to look it up when we're done.
well, it came the obvious podcast I listened to, it came up in, which was the Doughboys, which they review chain restaurants, and so that
Okay.
comes up every now and then. But then like it showed up on like my video game podcast and some other places. And it's like, oh, I guess this is just a thing now.
Yeah, people find anything to seem nuanced. It's like this is different and special.
Yeah, I
I'll
just
premium for that.
they recently they reviewed Raising Cane's chicken. Yeah, I think it's just Raising Cane's chicken, which is named after a dog.
Okay.
And they just specialize in chicken fingers. Like that's pretty much all they make: chicken fingers and fries. And like, do you like chicken fingers? Well, here you go, and some sauce. Do you like a chicken? Do you like a chicken sandwich? Well, we're gonna take the chicken fingers and throw a couple of them on a bun. There's your chicken sandwich.
There you go. Sandwich.
It's just like one of those restaurants. So it's like we just specialize in this one thing, and like we're just gonna do that one thing. Which I hear like yeah, like because I also get into debates about stuff where there's always these restaurants like their failing point is trying to do too much rather than concentrating on like what you're good at. But I hear that, and I've never been to it, is Cheesecake Factory. I hear they have an outrageously large menu, and
Yes.
somehow it works. Like somehow they can do it all. I don't know how.
Well, what they have is a lot of variations on a theme.
Was it like Taco Bell, pretty much?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, they have like the pasta side. They have, of course, the cheesecake side, but the cheesecake is just like it's all cheesecake, but this has stuff blended into it, or we'll fry it, or we'll etc. I've been to a Cheesecake Factory twice, and I was like, I waited an hour both times, and I was like, oh, I'm not waiting an hour for this. This is adequate, but it is not worth an extra hour of my time.
Yeah, I waited half an hour the other day to get a Blizzard at Dairy Queen.
Yeah,
That was
those are huge right now. I don't know why. Yeah, you go to a Dairy Queen, man. It's
well, I think it was like around like 4 o'clock, and that's usually when people get off work. So I guess it was just that time.
Yeah.
Like that's usually like when Dairy Queens get just flooded is after work. But I hadn't had a blizzard in like a year, so it's like I'll go get a blizzard.
I haven't had one of those in a long time. I had plenty of other unhealthy stuff between them. Yeah, blizzards are. One of Grayson's friends works at a Dairy Queen, and it's like near the campus. And she said they're running out of shit. Like they have to close early sometimes. They just can't get enough. Well, they're having supply problems. They can't get half what they used to get, and they just reopened here because they're not. The Dairy Queens are not open in the winter here. So yeah, they're just running out of shit.
Yeah, I wonder if the special Dairy Queen here is still open. There was 2 Dairy Queens that are within like 4 blocks of each other where I used to live. And one's just your standard Dairy Queen, and the other one's like a smaller Dairy Queen. But what they do special is if you order a large Blizzard, they're not giving you the large Blizzard. They're taking you like the large cup that you put like a Coke in, and they're putting the Blizzard in that fucking thing, and you're paying like $8 for getting like a quart of a Blizzard.
Sadness size, depression size Blizzard.
And I'm always like pumped. It's like, oh yeah, here we go. This is enough Blizzard for me, and then I eat it, and it's immediately regrettable. It's like, oh, that was too much Blizzard.
Yeah, gonna have Blizzard flavored vomit here in a little bit. What did I used to get that was I could only get the medium? Oh yeah, they had the one here that did like the Heath Blizzard, but then they put caramel sauce in it. I know that doesn't sound good, but it is. But you can only do like a medium. Like you'll get sick. Like they're probably putting like 5 candy bars in that thing.
Yeah.
It's not even a Dairy Queen. It's like one of the like the Dairy Barn where they call it like a Cyclone or something, so it don't get sued. Yeah, it's really good. They use the big styrofoam cups, the thick ones. Like you don't see those anywhere. Where you do, you see them at Sam's Club, which is where these guys are getting them. But yeah, and then we got but there's a place that does chicken fingers. It's like one of those Dairy Queen knockoffs, but they do chicken fingers and they give you a cup of gravy to dip them in. Like, whoa, okay, this is next level. We're just gonna fry these chicken fingers up and dunk them in gravy. Cool.
Yeah, sometimes I feel
Proud
bad.
to be in America. But then someone told me that's a Canadian thing too, so I don't know.
Oh yeah, because they have like fries with gravy, but it's like, yeah. Or is that poutine and gravy and yeah, that's something they do there. It's
Poutine
like
is gravy.
oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, it's like gravy fries they do up there.
Yeah, so someone told me that's where that came from. I was like, oh, I thought this was a Southern thing. Like, no, it's a Canadian thing because it's kind of like pepper gravy. It's different.
Yeah.
Looks like ranch sauce, but it's gravy.
Yeah, sometimes I feel guilty when I go to a Dairy Queen because I just get one Blizzard, and they just have this whole menu. It's like, why? I'm just coming here for ice cream, and then but sometimes some Dairy Queens will have like cheese curds, and that's like the only place I know that you can get cheese curds, and like they're fine. It's just fried cheese curds. So.
Yeah, it's cheap breaded cheese fried. You can't really fuck that up. Especially if they give you ranch to dip in and like, yes. My eyes start to glow when they do things like that.
But yeah, F1 is back. And it's at the oh fuck, I had it pulled up. I'll see if I can pull this off. Cuz the race it's called Imola, but like the full name is Formula One Pirelli Gran Premio del Made in Italy del Emilia Romagna 2021.
Okay, that's why they call it IMLA or whatever.
Yeah, Imola. Yeah.
Imola.
Yeah, they call it Imola, but like spelled IMOLA. But here it's Del Emilia, which is Del apostrophe EMILIA. So it must be just some weird like nickname for it. Like we're just fucking calling it Imola, you dumb shits.
Italian thing. It's like, yeah, nobody gets that unless you're Italian.
So this track has been retired for quite a while, but because of COVID, it came back last year, and so they brought it back again this year. It's mostly notable for it's like an old school track. It's also where Ayrton Senna died.
Oh, okay.
What makes it old school, I guess, is that the track is very narrow and there's not a lot of runoff area, hence the dying.
Yes.
But with these modern F1 cars, like what's supposed to be like a corner where a guy's supposed to slow down, these F1 cars, it's just full throttle through the corner.
Yeah, they're not even. They're just grabbing the wheel.
And
Not
it's
even
like,
after the brakes.
and all the drivers are really happy. It's like, this is really fun to drive. But because the track is so narrow, there's almost no passing during the race. Because modern F1 cars are the size of an F 150 in length and width.
Yeah, they're big.
Uh,
They don't weigh a lot, but they're big.
well, I think the current ones, because of the battery unit, they weigh more than
Oh
usual.
yeah, yeah, that's right. I forgot they're slapping those battery units.
But they're not. I don't think they weigh much as Formula E cars, because Formula E cars are pretty much all battery.
Yeah.
But which also, like, if you ever seen a Formula E race, those cars could they're fucking bumper cars. Like,
Yeah.
an F1 car, if your two cars touch, they just like evaporate like a paper airplane into like a blender.
Right.
In Formula E cars, you can bounce. They can just knock around each other pretty well. Although I saw like a highlight of one of the races recently, and it looked like they went back to the old pit model where you don't have enough battery in your car and you race in two cars. Like you and your pit stop is pulling into the garage and jumping into another car and finishing your race.
Oh, okay.
Which the few years ago they had built a big enough battery to last the whole race. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I have to investigate that. Anyways, sad qualifying. Hamilton was on top. Not really a surprise, but it's last week or last race it was Verstappen because the Red Bulls looked really good. They looked to be the fastest. So it looks like Mercedes has made quite a few changes. I mean, they have fucking 3 weeks to work on it, so it looks like they're kind of getting back to the to competing with Red Bull, even though they still got pole. So
Yeah.
because like with this race, because it's passing so hard, it's really important to like what your qualifying position is, because that's probably where you're gonna finish the race at. Then you got Perez at number 2 in Red Bull, beating his teammate Max Verstappen, which that's the first time a teammate has beat Max Verstappen in qualifying in 2 years or 3 years.
Okay.
You got Leclerc with a Ferrari at number 4. That's pretty good. You got Gasly in the AlphaTauri at number 5. Daniel Ricciardo at number 6. Lando Norris at 7. Heartbreaking with Lando Norris. He so like when on the racing screens you'll see like they have the different sectors that they split the race up into, and they'll have a color coding for each driver. Is like a yellow means like they've lost time. I'm not sure if there's red, but yellow means they lost time in that sector. Green means it's their personal best, and purple means it's the best overall.
Okay.
And Lando Norris had purples across the board. Like he was going to get pole. Actually, I think he ended up like he would have been in second, but he went off the track a little bit on one of the corners and they deleted his track time.
Oh wow. Okay.
Which the last race there was a lot of controversy over the track limits, so it looks like they're kind of being a bit of assholes about it here. But like I said, it's a narrow track. It's probably easy to get off track a bit. Bottas in 8th, which that's a surprise. He must, I don't know, because in the free practices he was on top for all sessions, so he must have fucked something up there. I don't know. Ocon in 9th, which that seems pretty good for him. Stroll in 10th, which I guess that's pretty good for him because Aston Martin just does not look good this year. So that's your top 10 for F1. Should be an interesting race tomorrow. Well, actually, it probably won't be, but Perez, he's in number 2, so he'll be on the what do they call it? he'll be at the front.
Yeah.
Because like number 1's on the left, number 2's on the right, but just like a little grid space behind. So this is the first time he's ever started a Grand Prix at the front of the pack.
Oh, okay.
So that's interesting.
I'm
for
looking
him.
at their lineup here. Okay.
Also interesting to hear like, because like Perez, his drive, like he's known as a tire whisperer.
Oh, okay.
Like he knows how to make tires last, and he learned that from his teammate. I think it was Kobayashi. He learned the driving style from him on how to really save your tires. But apparently, with this Red Bull car, he's had to completely change his driving style to fit the car. So he's like trying to drive more like Max Verstappen rather than what he usually does. But because he's a veteran, he's used to changing his driving style. And he also said that it was going to take him like 5 races to like really get up to speed with this car, but yeah, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Looks good for Perez. And maybe he learned a lot from that last race, because he had to start from the pit lane, and he ended up in 5th. He had to pass a lot of cars, so that's a lot of experience to get through. Weirdly, Yuki Tsunoda crashed in the first round of qualifying. So technically he didn't qualify for the race, but he'll be starting in the 20th, the last spot in the grid. Which I didn't know how that worked. I thought like because he didn't technically qualify, does he have to start from like the pit lane or something? But no, I guess he just starts in last place.
Oh, okay.
Because I am the F1 Fantasy League, and because he did not qualify, he got like -5 points.
Wow.
Yeah, Fantasy League.
You took 5 away?
Huh?
That did not qualify puts you down 5?
Yeah, well, in the Fantasy League thing, so it doesn't really count.
Oh, the fantasy. Okay, I was gonna say. I thought that was actually like okay.
No. Yeah, the Fantasy League has a whole different scoring thing where you get points for beating your teammate and all this other stuff, and it's kind of fun just to just like use your instincts and just bet on people. It's usual betting. It's that same little just the gambling thing that says like, oh, I'm a genius.
Yeah, I feel good about. I could do this in real life.
Well, I like the last year there was that race where Gasly won. I had him on one of my teams, and there's a thing. It's called the Turbo Driver, where it's a driver that costs less than $20 million will double their points for that weekend. And I had made Gasly the Turbo Driver for that weekend, and I got like almost 100 points from one driver, which is like pretty good. Like usually you're getting like 20 from a driver if they're really good.
Yeah.
So I just remember that. Although, like, I don't know, there's something weird where it's like there's other, but it doesn't matter. It's a fun thing to do on the side, just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
And it's free, so who cares?
Yeah, as long as you're not throwing money into it.
In the DraftKings.
$10,000 deep on my team. In real money? No, fantasy money. Okay.
Well, that shit's out there. I mean, DraftKings is like, and all those other.
You can do real money. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
you can't.
Well, it just kind of feels. I remember there was like all those things were like getting like sanctioned against, but now it seems to just open that shit up, and now just gambling is available across America.
Yeah, you know why that is, don't you?
Was that?
You're not going to be able to fill stadiums for at least 2 or 3 more years.
Huh.
So if you let gambling in legally, like believe me, the people doing it, they're getting a part of it. The people that run the teams. I mean, you got to be careful with that. But I think they're getting paid like to use the names and stuff,
Yeah.
rights,
Licensing fees.
Yeah. But yeah, that's why all of a sudden that's the thing, because that's all over Michigan. DraftKings, go now. $500 of free money to sign up. It's like, I'm just gonna keep building models.
And then I guess a little review of WrestleMania, being that last week it was in the middle of it, or night 1. So it was I guess a pretty good WrestleMania. It almost would just automatically be a good WrestleMania just because there's fans there.
Yeah.
Yeah, first night was the best night. The second night had a lot of weird shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first match with the Fiend versus Randy Orton, where they didn't really do anything special other than they're just the weird shit with the Fiend. They had like a giant Jack in the Box that Alexa Bliss came out and because now her character is like this weird haunted child character, and she came out and cranked the Jack in the Box, and the Fiend popped out of it, and he had previously a few months ago been lit on fire, and then he came back last week in like this melted face version of the Fiend.
Oh God.
And now he's been healed, and now he's back to the original version but slightly different version of the Fiend. And the mask is made by Tom Savini, the special effects guy that did like shit for like Dawn of the Dead and stuff like that. The original ones, that guy. The guy with the dick gun from Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh yeah.
That's Tom Savini. He's like a special
Sex
effects
machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Fiend just loses the match in 5 minutes, because Alexa Bliss, she was sitting on the Jack in the Box thing with like this weird crown of thorns that was just bleeding black goo, and apparently that distracted the Fiend, and he lost the match when Randy Orton gave him his RKO finishing move. It was the fans start booing. And then they try to cover it up and cut away from a farther farther away angle to try to, and then you can still hear the crowd booing. It was yeah, they've been fucking up the Fiend for quite a long time, so
Yeah.
it's like, I think Bray Wyatt is like he's very creative. Unfortunately, the writers behind WWE and Vince McMahon are not.
Okay.
And it also still this guy has to put all his creativity into this weird horror universe, and then it all has to culminate in a wrestling match, which is just the strangest fucking thing.
Yeah, that presents a lot of challenges on many levels.
Oh, the funny thing on commentary, when the Jack in the Box, the giant Jack in the Box was next to the ring, one of the guys in commentary is like, "What is that box-like structure?" And it's like, "You mean the fucking box?"
Yes, the box object. The objective box. So what are they trying to do with that? Are they just trying to revive some of the mythos around the Undertaker?
Yeah, kind of every once in a while
The Undertaker never really went that deep. There was just some weirdness, and
yeah. Well, I mean, when he started in the late '80s, early '90s, you could kind of get away with oh, and now this wrestler is a dead man and has mythical powers, magical powers behind him, and then as time went on, that was kind of seen as ridiculous, and then the Undertaker became the biker taker. Where you just got into I'm a biker now, I'm a badass.
Oh, okay.
The American Badass Undertaker. I mean, he literally came out to Kid Rock's American Badass.
Nice.
He drove to the ring on a motorcycle. So then they kind of changed his character that way, and then later on they brought him back as the Dead Man, the Undertaker, where it's lightning and. He rolls his eyes in the back of his head. So every once in a while they try to go yeah, let's do the mythical stuff just to kind of have variety. Because you can't not every match can just be this is a pure competition, because then everything will be exactly the same. So
yeah,
every once in a while you do the spooky magical bullshit. And sometimes it's fun and sometimes it's really stupid.
Yeah.
Because then, I don't know, some people
have they ever done swords and sorcery type matches?
They've had to. I've done something.
Viking stuff.
Oh yeah. There's the Viking Raiders.
Okay.
That was fun because in NXT, on the indie scene, they were known as War Machine, and they're just kind of were more like what if the guys in Road Warriors were wrestlers? That's kind of was their gimmick. Other than the actual wrestling group, the Road Warriors, it was kind of a reinterpretation of that. And then they changed their name when they went to NXT, and then they were the War Raiders, and then it kind of had more of a Viking theme to it. And then when they got brought up to WWE proper, Vince McMahon named them the Viking Experience.
Viking experience, kind of like the Jimi Hendrix experience. Okay.
And it nearly ruined them. People just laughed them, and I was like, the fuck is the Viking Experience? Then they changed the name to the Viking Raiders. Like, yeah, that's what they're called. We never called them something stupid. But they changed their finishing move, which used to be known as like the Fall of Man or something like. No, it was like I can't remember. It was like Annihilation or something like that. But they changed their finishing move to the Viking Experience. So then they still get that in there. It's like, you fucking dipshits.
I'm surprised they haven't ever had like Nazi heels and stuff. Well, you probably can't do that internationally.
There used to be that.
Oh, did there? Oh, well, the problem nowadays is too many people would want to be on that guy's side.
Like this was like in the 50s. But you remember the Von Erichs, the Von Erich family, that tragic family where they basically all the brothers died.
You talked about him before, yeah.
So the dad, he was the first in the generation to be a wrestler, and he was a heel, and he played a Nazi. And it was like Fritz something like that. Like that was his name, and he went out there with a swastika and stuff like that. Like that's, and he was a heel wrestler.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised they haven't done that. But then I'm thinking, well, yeah, but then half this fucked up country would want to be like, you could have like Captain America people on the other side, and the Nazis are the bad guys, and half the country would be on the side of the Nazis. And then the other half would decide they didn't like violence. It's like, well, wait a minute. No. You have to be a bulwark against the Nazis. But
I mean, he was doing the Nazi gimmick in the 50s where it was like naturally like, okay, obviously the crowd is going to
the guys were still alive that fought the Nazis. They didn't. Yeah, I think we were wrong about that. No, I didn't feel that way. Or at least I hope not.
Yeah, what's the other? Yeah, there's some other strange stuff about night 2. There's a really good match between Cesaro and Seth Rollins. They really put on a show. There was no title match on the line. They just had a match, and Cesaro won, and it was like the biggest thing. Like it seemed like he like won all WrestleMania. Because Cesaro is like one of the most like underrated athletes that they have. They call him the Swiss Superman or the Swiss Cyborg. Also, he's just this tall Swiss guy, bald, and he's very lean muscle guy, but he can like pick up and throw around like 600-pound guys. Like he is deceptively incredibly strong.
Very dense human being.
Yeah. I mean, but he doesn't look like the world's strongest man guys. Like he looks like like a basketball player, but like even like maybe even less like more leaner. But then like you see him throw around guys, it's like, oh fuck, he's got that weird CrossFit lean muscle where like, like those like CrossFit guys where it's like you see like bodybuilders and like, oh, that guy can probably bench 500 pounds, but like no, they can bench like 300. It's all artificial. Like they like their muscles look big, but they're not as functional as like these little CrossFit guys where their muscles.
Yeah, those guys have like chimpanzee muscles where like pound for pound it's much stronger.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, I can't remember. Oh yeah, there was a really good main event where it was a 3-way, and they just beat the shit out of each other. You won't know any of the guys, but the match of the weekend was Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair, which is the main event of night 1, which it was sold as being historic because it's the first time 2 black women have ever main evented WrestleMania.
Okay.
Last year, or actually the year before that, like there was the women's main event. But this time is like, that's actually probably the first time there's been a main event between 2 black people, maybe. I'm not sure. And yeah, it was just a great match. Like there's nothing in it. Like it wasn't like a flawless match or anything like that, but there's just a lot of emotion to it. And you just kind of felt for them. And like they just like fucking put on a great match. And when they first get out there, like you could just see like the the weight of the situation is like weighing on them because Bianca Belair, it just gets out there and she's like trying to be like stoic, and then she just like starts crying essentially, but like holding it back. And then Sasha Banks is like trying her best to keep from smiling because she's the heel in the situation, and they kind of like nod each other, and they kind of like give this nod to each other. It's like, all right, this is the gravity of the situation, let's get on with the fucking match. But it was just, and like people started clapping just because they saw her like crying. And like it was just nice to see people give a shit, and like this really meant something to them.
Yeah, that's
And-
always nice when that happens.
And that was just the start of the match, and then they go on and have a really cool match. And Bianca Belair showed out, like, you know, how really athletic and strong she is. And she has like this really long ponytail, and then she has a move where she takes her ponytail and she just will whip people in the stomach,
Wow.
and it's really loud. You know, because it's like a fucking bullwhip going off, and then like.
Yeah.
She hasn't done the move for like 2 years, and they saved it for this last moment because like the whole match, Sasha Banks is trying to use her ponytail against her, and then she kind of like kicks her away, grabs her ponytail, winds up and hits her with the loudest fucking like sonic boom. She hits her with it, and she has this long fucking slash across her stomach where she
It's
hit her
nice
with.
welt.
Yeah. I was like, oh shit. And then she hits her with her finishing move, the kiss of death, and then she wins the match and she won the title. And just everybody goes crazy. It was just a nice happy moment.
Yeah.
I was almost unhappy for Sasha Banks because like it doesn't matter, but she is, if you like look under the stats, basically she never is able to defend her championship. Like she always loses like almost immediately after winning the championship, which it's again here, but like Sasha Banks is too good. Like she's been in too many like good matches where it's like clearly she is the force behind what makes that match good.
Huh.
Anyways, so that was WrestleMania.
Well, good. I watched some of Invincible. I watched about 5 of those.
I think it's almost all of them.
Yeah, I'm almost done.
Well, there was a new one came out yesterday. I was like up till like 4 a.m. because I was like watching. I was trying to catch up on. Actually, I watched the first episode of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then I got to the end where like the new Captain America comes up, and it's just like, well, fuck, I gotta watch like at least like the first opening scene. I get like 20 minutes in the next episode, and it's like 3 a.m. It's like, I gotta stop this, but Invincible has a new episode, and I watched the latest Invincible episode, which they're 44-minute episodes for a cartoon, which is kind of unusual. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's an interesting show. Like you said, the first one is like, oh, this looks like the most generic like 80s kind of superhero cartoon, and then it's well, it takes that turn. And then after that, then there's all kinds of things going on with, you know, the sex lives of superheroes and the just the anxiety, and then the weird invaders that keep invading.
yeah, they have some weird time distortion thing where where like they age in the Earth's atmosphere for some weird reason, and they keep coming back, even though like they kill the leader. Every time they come back, the leader's like alive again, and I'm not sure why, just some weird time shit or whatever. Because there's some like their universe has a different time structure to it than ours, and
Yeah.
which is why they're invading for some reason. I can't remember, but yeah, that was, yeah, like it was like it's called like Multicade or something. I think that's her name. Where she like,
Duplicate.
what's that? Duplicate? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she like keeps making versions of herself, and each version of herself like dies, and so she's like making versions essentially as shields to shield
Yeah,
herself.
human shield. Yeah. Yeah, it's a kind of a weird. It's also weird to hear J.K. Simmons. You know, he's the voice of Omni-Man. It's like, but you know, it's J.K. Simmons.
Yeah,
It's like, but he looks like a cop in this with the guy's mustache and all that.
there's also a weird side. It's only shown up in like 3 episodes, but it starts off with You have oh shit, who's the guy from Mad Men?
Oh, I can't think.
Fuck.
What does he play?
He's the main guy. He's like Don Draper.
Oh, well, I just don't know who he plays on the show here. This show.
Oh, he's the security guard.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah, he's like the opening scene when like those guys show up, and then like in the next episode, like they're at some place where like shit's getting fucked up, and then like his stepson calls him dad, and he's like, "He called me dad." Well, like that whole story like keeps popping up in other episodes, and like, what are they doing this for? So it's like I don't know what that is yet. It's just weird.
And then the alien that shows up and he realizes it's not Earth, or he was going to the wrong planet.
Oh yeah.
That's Seth Rogen.
Oh okay.
Um,
Yeah, they have a really good voice cast for the show.
yeah, I mean it's actually I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
So-
you see like pictures of it, and it's like, oh, this is just some like Batman or Justice League cartoon. Like it's just gonna be for kids, and then like it looks like that, but it's not that. I mean, it's more along the lines of The Boys, but like less sinister. There's still a heart to this.
Yeah. This isn't like soulless. It's not just like, oh, what over the top death thing are we gonna do now? Or,
Well, it does have that.
well, yeah, it does, but it's also a cartoon, so it makes it a little
Yeah.
little more. But that's all like going on with the adults.
Yeah.
Like so far. I mean, yeah, we'll see. I know that was based on a comic, so
Yeah.
we'll see where it goes. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised that like, oh, I'm gonna watch another one and another one and another one. I've got another one to watch. So yeah, we'll definitely keep talking about that. But yeah, I did thought it was weird that like the duplicate girl was basically having a threesome with one chick's boyfriend with 3 versions of herself. Like, that's just kind of weird to even think about. And then these are all supposed to be teenagers too, and it's like, whoa, okay.
And there's like the weird bit where it's like there's something where it's like he says something like, oh, was it's he's like it's offended what's her name in what is it?
Duplicate.
It offended her, like he was like slogging off all her like duplicates.
Yeah.
And then they're like standing there, and it's like, no, we're all a part of this. And it's like, oh, that's got to be fucking weird to have a relationship with her.
Yeah. That's kind of a callback to the Watchmen when he's creating different versions of himself so he can work on his science projects and sleep with his girlfriend. And she gets mad when she finds out, and he's like, "What? It's all the same to me." And it's like, oh, that's weird. Like, wrap your mind around that.
Well, it gives you like a weird thing because like her character isn't featured that much, but like once you like start to insert that idea, like things become like she becomes far more interesting because then it's like almost like she doesn't have a singular identity. She's almost like Legion, like we are many.
Yeah.
Like, does she have some like weird like diary where she keeps track of like all her duplicates that have died and like they mean something to her, and it's just like slowly like eating away at her soul or something like that.
Do the duplicates have any agency? Where their memories end when they die? And she just, when you're creating more of them and they're just using them as human shields, it's like that a life snuffed out. Yeah, that gets really weird.
So there's a lot of little ideas like that where it's like, oh, you could create a whole series just on this one character, but they're just kind of a side character.
Yeah.
Or like the Monster Girl stuff. That's interesting. Where it's basically like their version of Hulk, but like every time she turns into a monster, she
Yeah, she's like an adult woman, but she ages backwards, and so she looks like a 12-year-old girl.
yeah.
She's like, I can't have any relationships with anyone because everyone's like, ooh, and then the people that are into it, I don't want to be around. And she's actually like a 25-year-old woman.
Yeah. Yeah, she
But
says
it's
she
like-
used to be Monster Woman until she became
Yeah.
Monster Girl.
Yeah. Which that's weird.
And then there's the weird thing with the robot and his love for her or whatever her affection for her, which I don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
it's got to be something weird. It's not going to be normal.
Yeah, the robot guy is probably I haven't read anything else about it because I don't want to spoil it. But some assumptions I have is the robot guy is not entirely good. I know Omni-Man, whatever he says his people are on his planet are, like, that's not true.
Yeah.
Because he's apparently doing something. He's laying some kind of groundwork because he's always. They didn't make it clear that he wasn't one of the main superheroes. He was just a helper
Yeah.
that would show up and he was kind of a free agent. And once they made that clear, it's like, oh, this guy's hiding shit. Like he represents something evil. Obviously, seems like a nice guy, but he's not. Or he's not in a position he wants to be in, but he's going to.
Or what he's doing he's trying to do good, but he thinks this is the only way it's possible to do good.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, shit, dude.
He's going to tear people to pieces. And of course, there's a lot of casual death and property destruction. They do acknowledge it. It's like, yeah, this costs like $1 billion, and every time Cleveland gets invaded or whatever, they had to rebuild the city, and they're tired of doing it on a regularly scheduled basis.
And I did like the kind of like Hellboy detective guy. He was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him. It's like, of course everyone's evil. I am. He's not doing it because he cares about right and wrong. It gives him more time out of hell. That's really why it's like, oh, is this like a demon who's a purveyor of truth? It's like, no, he's just trying to get time off his hell contract. Like, oh, weird. So all that exists then too in this universe.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so far so good. See where I think Robert Kirkman, he does a lot of cool stuff, so he has an interesting storytelling method that I like.
What would you say that is? I'm not sure necessarily what you're referring to.
He does things where, I know this, like in the Walking Dead comics, which I finally finished most of them. It's like he does things where he's not afraid to build up characters, make you think about characters, like characters, then reveal all their flaws, and either A, have them die, or B, have them become really bad people. Like whatever darkness is in their nature just takes over.
Okay.
He does that he will do that over an extended period. It's not going to happen in one episode, like, the Superman comics where we have evil Superman for one comic. It's like, no, we have a building fire inside that will slowly eat these people until they will either, become evil or go through some redemptive process that's almost more horrible than dying, or just die. You don't know. It's one, and I do appreciate. I don't know if that's all him, but there's a lot of that in The Walking Dead.
Yeah,
and I see signs of that here too, even though this is written by other people as well. But
it's always amazing in The Walking Dead where it's like, oh, you've killed off like pretty much the entire cast, but you still have created interesting characters and have new avenues to approach, which is like, that's a pretty astounding feat.
Yeah,
because like the objective of The Walking Dead is a zombie movie that never ends.
Yeah, but I like that he takes his time with that.
Yeah,
we don't have this quick, like, oh no, they're a bad guy for this episode. It's like, oh no, they might be permanently a bad guy, die, or never be the same character again. Which, because that happens in real life to people.
Yeah.
So maybe not as extreme. Some of that stuff gets a little emotional, but yeah, I like it. I call that the Kirkman style of storytelling, where it's like, don't get to like any of these characters. But it's not all Games of Thrones where a sword suddenly appears through someone's chest. It's like, they're going down this road, and it's like sad to see, which engages you in the story.
Yeah, with Walking Dead, it's just like it kind of like you're just watching a train wreck of the society and Earth and all that stuff. Whereas with Invincible, there's kind of like a redemptive core somewhere. It's like, oh, there's optimism here. It's just going to be, it's going to have to go through a rough patch to come out clean.
It's going to be earned.
Yeah.
You're going to earn that optimism.
Or there's optimism and naivety meeting the very brutal real world. And optimism, a little light can shine through is enough for this world.
Yeah. Yep. So that's what I like about it. There's not much I don't like about it. It kind of stands alone as its own unique thing.
I don't know. Would you necessarily like because of how it looks? Would you like? You think the art style is kind of dismissive? Like this just looks like a normal superhero cartoon.
Yeah, I think that with the art style, they're trying to make it seem as blandly superhero as they can, which kind of distracts you from like, well, it's coming next. That's what I see. Could be wrong, but yeah, what I see is like that you're doing thoroughly generic. It's got that 80s, 90s color palette to it. Kind of reminds me of the X-Men cartoon series from the 80s or from the 90s.
Yeah.
Everything kind of has that look and feel to it. So they want you to feel like comfortable. It's like, oh, I know this ground and gradient, and then it's going to shift under your feet, which is not a bad technique.
Yeah.
So it is retro in that way, but they do make it clear it's set in somewhere close to our time because of the cell phones and technology they have. It
Yeah.
looks like.
Well, I think like when they first brought out that medical equipment, it's like, oh, this is a bit more advanced because they have like the floating, like oh, what do those things? Those carry people on the.
Gurneys.
Yeah, they have like the magnetic gurney things, and there's one part where like they like bag up a guy's head and like spray his neck with like foam thing. It's like, oh shit, are they gonna bring this guy back to life? It's like, nope. They're gonna try.
His name, the Immortal Man or something. He's actually the leader of the group.
Yeah.
And then these all have like the Immortal is what it's called.
And the way,
I like
the way War Woman dies is brutal.
Yeah, he just turns her head around backwards.
And then she's like still alive. She like falls down to her knee and coughs up blood on her back. It's like, Jesus Christ. That is such a gruesome detail.
Well, that's weird because see that first episode, the credits start rolling.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then what's like, wait a minute. Oh, post credit scene. What's this going to be? You know, like some weird exchange. Like, oh no, it's going to be just fucking Quentin Tarantino level violence. And it's not going to really be addressed in the next. I mean, other than the team was killed.
Yeah, you're just left with a question like, why? It's like, was his mind controlled or something like that? And you kind of just find out later on, like, no.
Plan. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what his.
And they have Walter Goggins. I think Walter Goggins plays multiple characters, but mostly he's like the CIA chief or whatever that can
guy with the bald long hair.
Yeah.
The really grim guy.
He's got like some scar on his face and he can like transport all over the world or something.
Yeah. It's like, you're going to do this for me because you have to.
But I think Walter Goggins does like multiple characters because like usually Walter Goggins does some like pretty extreme stuff. So I think he does like this is his normal character and then he'll do like more like flamboyant characters off to the side because they have a lot of stuff. They have a lot of like side characters to get through and kill off. So. Which is nice with the Amazon Prime thing because like whenever like somebody pops up and like I think I know that person, you just like click the screen and it shows you the whole cast list of like what's the cast list of who's on the screen currently. It's like, oh yeah, this X-ray stuff is cool.
Yeah, the X-ray stuff is nice. So yeah, Invincible is definitely something.
It's worth watching.
Worth looking at. There's nothing wrong with it. Let's see. What else? There was something on the list.
Did you watch Tenet yet? We're not going to talk about it, but I just wanted to know.
No, that's a. Don't tell Andrew, even though we're going out live. That's an Ultra HD, not a Blu-ray.
Oh,
so,
does it not?
I don't have an Ultra.
Does it not work? Does it not have like does it not have two discs? One's Blu-ray, another one's Ultra HD.
I thought it was just Ultra HD. Let me look at it again because I looked at it and I was like, huh, I'm gonna try to stick this in there. Yeah, it's a 4K Ultra HD. Let's see, HDR. Oh no, this is a Blu-ray. Okay, you were right. So I'll be watching that tomorrow too. Because I put the one in my player and it was like does not play. I was like, what? Oh, wait a minute. Okay.
That
Now
one might play in like the Xbox, the Series X.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I believe these the Series S and the Series X, and actually the Xbox One S can play 4K uh, uh, Blu-rays.
Okay.
I believe they all can, because it's just a software thing, not necessarily a hardware thing. Actually, technically a hardware thing. Whatever.
Now that I know, now I have a DVD or a Blu-ray I can play it.
Yeah, because usually sometimes those come with both.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw Soul.
Oh, the Disney one?
Yeah, the Pixar movie. I saw purely because I found out the music was done by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross and oh fuck, forgot his name. Fuck, it's Baptiste. It's like Sean Baptiste or something like that.
John Batiste?
Yes, John Baptiste.
Okay.
Because it was weird because like so Trent Reznor, he is on Twitter but he's not really on Twitter. He like tweets like maybe once a year.
Okay.
And so Mank came out this year and he put out like, hey everybody, go see Mank, I did the music. And then there was like nothing about Soul. Which is why I had no idea he did Soul. Also, like it won the Golden Globe for Best Music, and that's why I first heard about that. Like he did the music for this, but like he didn't tweet about it. I'm like, is Trent Reznor like trying to get away from this as fast as possible? Did he not like it or something? And really, I think what it is because this is a predominantly black movie. I think they're letting John Baptiste kind of be the front man for like this movie about the music.
Oh, okay. I could see that.
So that makes it because like when you see him like because it's always like a retweet of something that John Baptiste did like, hey, we won the Grammy. He's not necessarily being front and center about it, even though he do the music. But like John Baptiste is in the thing. And mostly what Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross did is there's like this afterlife, which has like it's very hard to describe. It's almost like monochromatic like black hole thing. And like weird line drawings, and so like in that world you get like the weird tonal like Nine Inch Nails stuff, and a little like electronic stuff thrown in there. But in the real world, it's all jazz music, which I think that's where John Baptiste comes in, and it's about a jazz pianist. So, but yeah, it's like for a Pixar movie, it's good. So. And I enjoyed the music. It's totally fine. So, and there's a lot of, yeah, I watched it a while ago, but yeah, it was a good watch just for the music. I still got to watch Mank yet, so I still haven't watched that.
Oh, okay.
Just this David Fincher movie sitting off the side that seems super interesting about Orson Welles, and it's like, I'll get to it. And Trent Reznor did the music for it. It's like, I actually don't know how long it is. Like, the Soul is pretty short. You can get through it pretty, they're like 90 minutes, but that's usually, Pixar movies are pretty swift.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's about a guy who gets, he gets a job offer he's like substitute teaching a high school band, and he gets a job offer to do it full time. But at the same time, he gets a jazz gig. Like the first time in years that he's got a jazz gig, and he's so excited for it that he like falls into a sewer and essentially dies. But because he doesn't want to go into the afterlife, he like escapes, and he ends up teaming up with like this like pre-soul thing that's supposed to go to a child, but like it's been like eons, and this thing has never been like transferred to Earth because it just can't like find out what it wants to do and to be a person, and he ends up like hijacking her kind of like passport to Earth and then they end up back on Earth, and then like she randomly ends up in his body at the hospital, and then he ends up in a cat, and then nonsense ensues. But yeah, it's a decent.
Oh, okay. I'm reading a happy book right now.
What's that?
It's the book Vincent Bevins wrote it. I heard about it. Like I heard it was coming out in December. It's called the Jakarta Method, and it's basically that's the prime American tool for anti-communism from basically the mid '60s till the end of the Cold War. And you wouldn't believe the millions of people that have died because of this. I mean, in Indonesia alone, I forget how many killings, because it was kind of in the post-Vietnam era, or it's heading towards that. Yeah, it was like 1 million people died in Indonesia. Because basically what they do is the CIA shows up and it's not hard to read, but it backs itself up with a lot of articles and scholarly research because they have to.
Yeah.
So essentially the CIA started a program. It's look, these ground wars in these countries fighting communism it's bankrupting us. Nobody wants the wars. Lots of people are dying. Americans specifically. And so they developed this kind of anti-communist program. It's like, this is the best way to keep communists out of, of course, Indonesia. And then, in Central and South America, where this book goes into that too, is just to destroy the left, just kill the leftist intellectuals in this country, portray them as outside factors, and let the people do the work for you. And that is essentially what the CIA and other parts of and groups in the State Department too. It wasn't all the CIA, but yeah, it's actually just called the Jakarta Method. And yeah, they destroy, all the leftist intellectuals out of a society, and then and then the murder and violence that ensues.
Didn't that happen in Laos, but with like the opposite result?
Yeah, it happened with.
And also, like, isn't it how China happened too? Like the revolution in China, bunch of farmers killing all the intellectuals and then becoming communist.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. I mean, it kind of there was waves of killing in China, but yeah, it was basically the farmers versus the intellectuals, and then when Mao took over, it was like, well, the farmers are too rich now, so we killed them. That was the next cultural revolution. And then, what was that guy's name? Chiang Kai-shek, basically the person who created Taiwan, where all the nationalists fled out of China. That was I forget. I mean, the nationalists didn't represent anything to the Chinese people, but more of the same corruption that was ruling their lives. So that's why they went with the communists. And we were not really widely involved in that because we didn't understand it. We thought it was weird. It was like, we understand how what we did in Japan. It's like, well, if we conquer the country, we can rebuild the society. But China was just too dense and just too many people. So we're like, okay, we'll let them do what they're going to do, and they'll come around eventually.
I didn't mean to counteract you. I just thought that was like the same thing that happened in communist revolutions.
It kind of is. It's all based on that. It's based on what they call social insurgency and stuff. It's where you just set up people to be radically diametrically opposed to, you call it, all the people on the left are homosexuals. They don't represent your values. They don't, whatever you can. We've all seen this.
Yeah.
Seen versions of this, but in countries like that where people can take up arms and, you spread stories around about what these people are doing, what they really represent. I mean, we've all seen this. And, or you take things that are half true. Because there's a lot of corruption in a lot of those countries. It's not hard to make things that seem like true enough that people will go and just launch a massive coup and a bunch of murder. And some of the killing got out of hand. They're like, whoa, hold on here. We're just trying to keep the communists out of the country, not make it into a graveyard. But yeah, it's not something that surprised me. I didn't know much about Indonesia, and I didn't realize how deeply involved in that country we've been for a long, long time. I knew like the stuff that went on in Central America and in Chile and El Salvador and Honduras and Guatemala. I mean, that's why like some of these refugees we get now are from those countries, because they're just so fucked up. They're not even functioning countries anymore. They're just gangs. They're just ruled by warlords. And a lot of that has to do with the people that, we just like kill all the leftist intellectuals and then bring in the right wing intellectuals. And then your country will become so corrupt that, it's like, if you're rich, you'll be fine. But because everyone's going to be rich, right? So, yeah.
I heard Castro is going to step down, and this will be like the first time in like half a century that there hasn't been a Castro.
Yeah, there hasn't been a Castro in power in Cuba. Raul is his name, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't have to read that book. It's grim reading. That's what I read before I fall asleep. It might not. I'm kind of interested in that era.
Yeah.
Because and the thing is like the book doesn't point out, but I also know this too, is the pro-communist forces in those countries that were trying to take over weren't a lot. I mean, there probably would have been just as many corpses either way. This is more about the struggle between the communist and capitalist world. It's just like in most cases in our sphere of influence, we won. And the places that we lost were like Vietnam, which cost us billions of dollars and 50,000 lives. And
well, I think it's like the thing with the Cold War is like a lot of times we focus on all the cool technology that came out, and like it seems like here it's like, oh, we wave far more destruction with just like ideas and subterfuge.
Yeah. Yeah, the guns and the infrastructure for the killing were already there. We just directed it through manipulation and just straight up lies. But there's a lot of hand wringers that read this book, and it's like, the pure evil of the American empire. It's like, well, hold on there, Moonbeam. You gotta understand, there was a thing called the Soviet Union too, that was way worse than what we were. I mean, in every way. Even when they were the helped basically secured the Allied victory in Europe. I mean, they raped their way across Europe. They were not well. Everyone was like, surrender to the Americans and the British, not the Russians, because you're going to go into a maw there that you'll never get out of. But yeah, this is a very interesting book. I learned some things about certain aspects of how we did it, but otherwise it's like, oh, I'm not surprised by any of this. But for me, it was more just like data aggregation. Yep. Heard this, heard that, heard this. Oh, didn't know about this. And who wrote this article? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's at the Harvard thing. I can go read that paper. Some of the dry dissertation of casualty figures seemed almost one step removed, though. That was a little weird when you read those. It's like 25,000 people died in this village. Like 25,000? That's a lot of people. And you're talking a span of a few days? Go cut down 25,000 trees and see how long that's going to take to get rid of.
And is that killing with bombs and stuff, or is that just like groups of people with guns going in and shooting a bunch of people?
Well, some of the people have guns. Some of that stuff in South America was in Indonesia. They're pretty well armed. That's actually a more industrial society than what you think. They could spin off a lot of weapons, but some of that stuff in like. Unless we were giving them guns in Central America and South America, a lot of it was like machetes, spikes, sledgehammers, old school medieval shit. But it was, a very interesting book. I've read it and didn't come out that long ago. I feel like I read it in a week. I actually just put this one on my Kindle and I was reading through. But like I said, a lot of books about topics like this I can skim, because it's like, yeah, I heard this. Okay. So, but it's a good book if you're interested in that time and place. And
what's it called? The Jakarta method?
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
Jakar. Let me look. Jakarta.
Okay. I didn't know if that started with a J or like a CH or something.
No, it's just with. Yeah. Yeah, but the everything that a lot of our anti-communist operations that went on around the world, there was different ways that Because this involved as much. This involved as much as intelligence service as it did like state policy from the State Department. So it became either it was known as this reeks of Jakarta, or this is going to operate under Jakarta protocols, which means there's going to be a lot of mass murder. So we're going to have to distance our involvement, because this is where we see it going on the ground, and this is, it's. For a lot of these people, it was just a job. As weird as it sounds, it's like, this is my job.
Sounds like when you're playing like Command and Conquer and you send the assault blob somewhere. It's like, okay.
Yeah, pretty much. Some of these people were pretty sterile about it, but they did see the evil on the other side too, which it's like not all evil versus evil is equal, but it's like, well, you want the communists running this? I mean, they're gonna, look what they did here and there, and it's like, I guess this is the only way. It'd be nice to be fair and open and honest with people, but no, you can't make any money that way. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. That's the thing.
I believe they make hard drives in Indonesia. I think that's their big thing.
Well, we supported, let's see, what was our client? Was it the Suharto family? It basically made Indonesia like it was actually just a client state of the U.S. for a long time. Like they didn't have like bilateral trade relations with anyone around them because they'd done such horrible things. Like nobody wanted to deal with them. So I think because they have like they have an auto industry. They tried to make planes for a while.
Sometimes I confuse Malaysia and Indonesia.
Yeah, Malaysia is like the Muslim country that's hooked up to China.
Yeah.
They're all in that archipelago that comes down from China.
But there's a lot
like
of tech
India.
manufacturers stuff in there.
Oh, yeah.
It was either Indonesia or Malaysia, but there was like a flood, and because the flood happened, SSD hard drives like shot up $100 a piece.
Sounds about right. They make a lot of clothes in Malaysia. They do a lot more tech in Indonesia.
Okay.
Like I said, Indonesia's a lot more densely industrialized than what you'd think.
Oh, Indonesia is very dense in population.
Well, like I said, they had two car companies at one time, and then they were going to try to make their own aircraft. Like, they're very, but a lot of it was that, the Suharto family I don't think they run it anymore. I think they had another coup to get rid of them. Like in the 90s, or I forget what it was. It was back and forth, but I mean, all that stuff was like state run, so it wasn't like super successful, but the fact that they had it was pretty impressive because it's not like a wealthy country. But they're very industrious in what they do, and including killing 1 million people.
Just casually.
It's casual. Well, yeah, it's
like how long did it take to rack up that number?
3 years, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They break it down in the book pretty succinctly. I don't have it with me. Yeah, 65, 66. Now 1 year.
Jesus Christ.
But you have a population density of almost 500 people per kilometer too, so it's
still. I mean, that's just like 3 million people gone a year. That's COVID numbers.
Yeah,
that's worldwide COVID deaths.
Well, if you read that, what was that? I've always been curious about the history of China, but it's hard to find Chinese books about the history. And also countries that lived under Mao, they don't tend to have a history. But there's one called like All Under Heaven or something. And you're talking like 35, 40 million people died there, like in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only time.
The only way that many people die. Well, no, not exactly. Well, die from human conflict. Like, then you look at like the Spanish flu, it was like 40 million people or something. But that's, that's not malevolent action by your neighbors. So anyway, watched a movie this week.
Yes. Watched
Watched,
1994's Robert Zemeckis' film Forrest Gump.
Yes. I haven't seen this movie in a long time. I saw it in theaters. And I watched it a few times since then. This is probably the first time I watched it in 10 years. It's a 25-year-old movie now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
And-
I think I like I think I it was interesting to watch it this time around because I guess I paid attention to it differently. But like I feel like I kind of like avoided the movie because this became so ubiquitous and parodied
Yeah.
throughout the years that you're just like, I don't need to see that movie. I know what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really interesting to watch it this time around because I guess I was paying attention to different things. Also, like when this came out, I was like 10, and there's a lot of things where like I didn't pick up on at that age. Although weirdly, other things I did. So like when Forrest is a kid and like the his mom has sex with like the superintendent of the school or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like mocking him for his sex sounds. Like, I don't think I knew sex was going on there. I think it was just like, oh, that sounds weird.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I had no idea Ginny was being raped. I wouldn't pick up on that as a kid.
Right.
Well, somehow I knew or suspected that Ginny died of AIDS at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But that was just kind of things I was thinking about going to. I actually like, and somewhere along the line, I thought I like Forrest's mom just sort of like runs her house as like a hotel, but because she has sex with that guy, at some point I thought like, oh, is she just like see a sex worker?
Yeah.
I get that's what you're supposed to call him now. I don't know why, but
Oh.
I'm not sure if they're being like a PR thing or if like calling hookers or prostitute implies like some sort of like in servitude that is negative, has negative connotations. I have no idea. but
Huh.
but people
I don't
get
know.
mad. But I don't know who they are. But people get mad when you call people prostitutes and hookers. You're
Oh.
supposed to say sex worker.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a weird.
Is that one of these new things I don't pay any attention to?
Yeah, well.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, it's also like, I don't know, like at some point, like, oh, you just call them prostitutes and hookers because it allows you to dehumanize them, and so calling them sex workers makes them sound like this is a formal business. And if you do that, that's fine. I don't care. So.
Yeah. Well, if you're paying taxes, I'll call you a sex worker. How about that?
But anyways,
Till then, you're a hooker. But yeah.
what
no,
do you remember as a youth when you first saw this movie?
I remember, well, my impressions of this movie is I always saw it as kind of a sugar-coated tale of the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
And it seemed a little too, like, nice and on the nose. And then I watched it again, and I realized, oh, there's all kinds of, like, dark subtext to everything.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like, oh, I like this more now than I thought I would. Because it is kind of a sweet story about a guy who, has they say he's got low intelligence, but to me he seems like a guy who is not distracted by a lot of minutia. Like he's just a guy who kind of walks in a straight line, and it's funny to watch things go on around him, and he's still like focused on that one thing,
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, yeah,
important
I think like at the time this came out, we're supposed to assume that he is retarded or has some sort of mental disability. But like nowadays, we would say like, oh, he's autistic because he has this innate ability to hyper focus on things.
Yeah, he's really good at ping pong and running and whatever he wants to do. But he doesn't seem to be a guy. I mean, he's a sweet man because there's no subtext with Forrest Gump. He's just like, oh, he's whatever he says is exactly what he means, and whatever he thinks he's doing is exactly what he thinks he's going to do. But then everyone around him who's like working at more than one level, it's like they're all miserable. He's relatively happy, even though he got shot in the ass and his whole platoon got massacred in Vietnam. And but he always came through it with like a kind of an optimism.
Yeah.
Which was fun. But yeah, I remember this movie being, I thought it was like, oh, this is kind of a sweet movie. And then it's like, oh, well, no.
Is saccharine the right word to call it? I'm not even sure what that means. Does that mean like kind of like...
Saccharine's an artificial sweetener.
Oh, okay.
I just say sugar, you know.
Okay. sometimes I hear the word saccharine being called towards movies that seem like kind of like naive and innocent, and
Yeah.
like, but it's like implied to be a negative thing. Like this is too naive and innocent.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
Yeah.
you said, there's like like everything has this is like literally an emotional roller coaster because like almost every moment it's like, oh, here's the bad thing that Forrest has to overcome, and here's this little funny thing that makes us feel like it's okay, and then here's another bad thing that Forrest has to overcome.
Yeah.
Like he starts out, he's got a mental disability and a crooked spine, and his legs don't work right, and then somehow he teaches Elvis how to dance.
And then he can run like no one else because the leg braces like gave him strength. And his fear of bullies gave him will.
Yeah, it's like that every time he's getting chased by the bullies, that's when you knew it was like directed by Robert Zemeckis because it seemed like something straight out of like Back to the Future.
Yeah.
It's like same shot. Oh, I did like I'm not sure how they did it, but there's a lot of clever shots where like Forrest runs past the camera, they do a pan, and then like he's like miles away from the people he's running from, and there's like a dust cloud in the distance, and it's probably just two shots combined together, but it looked really good. I didn't know if they did that practically or if it was just a visual effect, but either way, it's well done and illustrates what's going on.
I did like when he was playing for Alabama. You know, he was like the running back.
Yeah.
But the marching band had to tell him when to stop so he didn't plow through him and run back to the locker. Because he's only thinking in one dimension. So
Yeah.
there's no like greater thing here. Yeah, this is a fun movie. Because there's a lot of historical, and it's a very dark time in America.
Yeah.
And here's this guy just kind of going through it all, just walking around like, what's going on?
Yeah, and then the middle part of the movie is essentially like essentially kind of a parody of Born on the 4th of July.
Yeah, it's sort of weird.
But like works in a weird way.
Kind of put Gary Sinise on the map.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he talked about it in another episode, but like he was like he did like Gary Sinise directed and starred in like the movie version of Mice and Men. But that didn't really go anywhere. That was a failure. And then he kind of just like on a whim did this movie and then like skyrocketed his career.
Yep. The rise and fall and rise of Gary Sinise. He did a lot of bad movies and then sort of disappeared and
didn't he do like two like failed who's the author did do Android's Dream of Electric Sheep?
Oh, Philip K. Dick?
Yeah, he did like two failed Philip K. Dick movies or something like that. I think one was called Imposter, and I can't remember the other one.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I remember Imposter, but yeah. Which had all the hallmarks of being a good movie, but just never made it.
And this is like, what a move for Tom Hanks. It's pretty much, because he's coming off a Best Acting Performance Oscar for Philadelphia, and this pretty much combines his newly acquired experience as a dramatic actor and his natural comedic ability.
Yeah, this was a role made for him. He was not the first pick for this role.
No, it was like Bill Murray at some point.
Bill Murray and I forget who else. Chevy Chase?
Yeah, I think.
That would have been a weird.
That would have been awful.
Just like Fletch as Forrest Gump.
Just no nuance whatsoever.
Yeah, just kind of a flat, like, I don't know what these people are doing. I think they're all idiots. That's not the line, Chevy. It's not. Fuck you. Hope you all die of cancer. Wasn't that what he said to the people at, was it Community?
Yeah.
Hope you all die of some disease.
Yeah, I love the I love the bit when he joins the army and the drill instructor's yelling at him, and he's like, or I guess drill sergeant, he's in the army, and he's like, what is your number one function? To do whatever you tell me to do, sir? It's like, God damn it, Gump, you must be a fucking genius. It's like, such a great line.
And he was really good at all the boot camp stuff because he just would focus on like polishing boots, and he could assemble rifles in ridiculously short amounts of time. And
Yeah, when he's assembling the rifle, that reminded me of like a section in boot camp. You'll never hear about it, so I'll tell you about it. So there's a thing. There's a bunch of things you do in the barracks that are like weird training things because they have to fill all the time in the day. One of them is set up the meat locker, which I really don't know what that is, but like everybody grabs a bed and you like shove all the beds to like one side of the barracks, and you got to do it in like a minute, even less, like 30 seconds. So it's like teamwork. Let's move this fucking bunk bed across the room. And then that's so you give enough room so you could practice rifle drills and marching. And then you got to move it all back. And if you don't do it in time, you got to move it back. And then if you don't do it in time, you got to move it back.
this is Cool Hand Luke shit. Why is there dirt in my hole?
But one of the other one things is one of the things that yelled is set up the schoolhouse. And so like when that's what you do is your footlocker is next to the bed, and you just kind of like rotate that 90 degrees and you sit cross-legged with your knees up against the footlocker. And then like a lot of times what you're doing like you'll have a bunch of like stuff you're supposed to study, and you're sitting there and you're taking little tests, and that's why they call it the schoolhouse. But you're all sitting down like that. And the other thing you do, like what they're doing here, is that they're disassembling, reassembling a rifle. And so we'd also do stuff like, well, actually you're just cleaning it, but you get on top of your footlocker, you get a towel. It's called a Mickey Mouse towel. I think it's just because it's simple and stupid, but it's a white towel and it has outlines for all the parts of the M16. So when you take it apart, you can put it in the outline.
Okay.
And then you clean all, and you just clean all of it. You just get a brush, and it's exactly like the brush they were cleaning the floor with, and some CLP, and you got to clean this 25-year-old M16 that's been used by thousands of Marines.
Antique M16.
Yeah. So that section reminded me of boot camp.
Yeah. Yeah. So he did. He did like one combat mission in Vietnam, or no, he was there quite a while because he was talking about all the varieties of rain.
Yeah. I like when they just blow something up and they just hands him a handgun. He's like, "Go in that hole for us." And just jumps in.
Yeah. He was tunnel rat duty. Yeah. I did like how he naively describes Gary Sinise and his family's military history. Because it's like, oh, everyone in his family has died in an American war ever since the Revolutionary War. And it's like he doesn't see any irony how that doesn't bode well for the lieutenant that's in charge that has every ancestor of his has died in a war. None of them have lived.
Oh yeah, something I wanted to bring up about the beginning is I thought it was kind of weird that the first lady that's on the bench, she seems to be very cold towards Forrest. But if you think about it, if you had to sit next to that guy, it would be fucking weird. So I understand it. But then also I remember she's a black lady, and the first thing he tells, well, besides she has comfortable shoes, is that he's named after a Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah, the founder of the Ku Klux Klan, General Bedford Forrest.
So you can understand maybe this is very uncomfortable for her.
Well, he's unironically talking about things that are like major historical figures and stuff, and it's almost like, am I listening? Is this true? This guy doesn't seem to have the ability to lie. But if you were the person sitting there, you'd be like, what do you mean he met Kennedy? You fucking kidding me? Won the Congressional Medal of Honor? Yeah, that was funny. I remember that. It was like, yeah, after the Civil War, I forget what he said, but but they showed pictures like in the foreground of from that movie Birth of a Nation, where these guys are riding in white capes, and it was General Forrest in the front of it. It's like, yeah.
And they inserted like a Tom Hanks likeness over somebody. So
yeah,
one of many in the movie.
Yeah,
where they insert Tom Hanks into historical footage.
Now, was this the first movie to do that?
I think so. I mean, they might have done it in like a commercial or something like that first, but for a theatrical film, this is probably one of the first.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff is good. I remember the one with John Lennon being weird because it seemed like the way they animated his mouth, like it looked real and it looked good, but the way they synced it up with the audio was terrible.
Yeah.
Which, and I'm not an effects artist, so I don't know like what the disconnect there is, but you know, it was weird. And then that weird thing where basically they just sit there and just accidentally write "imagine," but that's kind of like that's all Forrest Gump. How Forrest Gump accidentally creates everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and then and it's like I said, it's all born out of this naivete. Like when he sells the shrimp company, and he gives his buddy's mom all the money. It's like millions of dollars, and then Lieutenant Danny gets some message, and it's like got the 1980s Apple logo, and it's like, yeah, he invested all my money in some fruit company. I guess I don't have to work anymore. Just like all that. Then Jenny comes back with his son, and she's dying.
I can't remember who it is. Some comedian or some podcaster has like I'm not sure if it's a great, but like they fucking hate Jenny and like they just go off on her. It's like, what a terrible person. And like I think back in the day, like you'd think that like, yeah, she's awful, but I think nowadays you'd realize, oh, she's just a lifelong victim.
Yeah.
But still like there's a lot of shitty things she does to Forrest, and it's not necessarily like her intentionally doing it. It's just like her life has taught her to be afraid of normalcy.
Yeah.
And to find bad men that will hurt her. And Forrest is too safe.
Yeah, because Forrest is just a nice guy. They do have a kid, which shows up at the end of the movie.
Yeah. Haley Joel Osment is first character.
Yeah. I thought I recognized him.
But yeah, there's something with like the end of it where it's like there's been some retconning because I always thought Jenny got AIDS at the end.
And it's hepatitis now.
Yeah, he said it's like hepatitis C, and I think it's just like the author of the original book, which I never read the original book.
Yeah, I never did. I always wanted to, but I never did.
And like I think he just like retcon where like later on he did some research about diseases of the time. He's like, oh, hepatitis C, because like at the time it would be fatal, but now it's curable.
Right.
But like when you think of the time that this movie came out and the time it's presenting, it's like the big thing is AIDS.
Yeah.
Well, actually, this would be like before anybody knew what it was because it's like 79 or something like that.
Well, it was around then.
Or 89 or something like that. But like something that implies, which seemed weird, is like, because like after she gets sick and he has a kid, it's like, so does the kid have AIDS? Like when did she get AIDS? She marries Forrest. Does she marry Forrest and never have sex with him again? Does she have sex with him and give Forrest AIDS? Does Forrest have AIDS? There's a lot of shit that's like, wow, Jenny could be an awful person, but they never answer it. These are just kind of questions that you have in the back of the mind. It's like, wait, what does this mean? But like, they said she had Hep C, but still, did she give everyone Hep C? I don't know.
Huh. Yeah, I didn't. Never thought of it that way.
So that'd be kind of a dark conclusion to Forrest Gump. Well, also the other thing is like, if you hate Jenny, the other thing you could say is like, is that Forrest kid? Like, because there's really like a heart-wrenching moment when he, she tells him it's his kid, and then he's kind of taken aback, and the first thing he's worried about is like, does he have any mental illness? And it's like, no, he's smart. And then like he's just so relieved by that, and it's just kind of a heartfelt moment.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty good. I guess there was a sequel to this that never got made.
Oh yeah, yeah. Have you ever heard bits about it? There's supposed to, I don't know, there's supposed to be like stuff where it's like he's in the White House again, and then like it's like supposed to be like Bill and Monica or something, and like he's like, oh, this cigar smells like Jenny or some shit like that.
Jesus.
And then like something where like he's like in the back of the Bronco during the OJ when he's like riding away, the OJ chase or something like that. a lot of all that stuff. But I guess apparently like what ultimately killed it is like, so if you're gonna take Forrest Gump from the early 90s and through modern times, and then like the whole Gump thing is that he's just kind of like happens to pop up and be bumbling in every major historical moment in time. It's like eventually you're gonna have to put Forrest Gump in 9/11 somehow, and like how's that gonna work?
Yeah.
And I was trying to come up with like bad jokes today. It's like, what do you do? It's like, do you just have some like weird voiceover and you have like show the planes like not hit the towers but start playing the voice? It's like, well, some pilots got lost on their way to New York and a lot of people were mad. And then, or you could like lean into some conspiracy theory stuff, or after 9/11, like Lieutenant Dan is showing him like some engineering sector of like some company that they owned, and Forrest Gump like bumps into some jet fuel and he just sets something on fire. It's like, turns out jet fuel can melt steel beams.
Yeah. You're real weird about it.
The other one that seemed like right up Robert, like the it's like one sequence or it'd be a part of the movie that seems like this would totally be up Robert Zemeckis' alley, is there was supposed to be this whole meta thing where they'd get to like 94, 93 when they're in production of Forrest Gump, and Forrest Gump is like trying to like stop or see the production of Forrest Gump, and it would be Forrest Gump meeting Tom Hanks as Forrest Gump, which is like right up Robert Zemeckis' alley.
Yeah, it's like that scene in Back to the Future too.
Yeah.
The different Michael J. Foxes. Yeah.
But yeah, like, and I guess there's a lot of like there's a lot of like baggage to the sequel where it's like you'd have to pay a lot of people if it ever got made, and so just nobody ever makes it.
Well, the only reason they picked up the rights was the guy who wrote the book only got paid $350,000 for the rights to the book, because they made the movie was $55 million. But they said they'd give him 6% off the back end if it was a success, and of course it made like $700 million. Never got any money because they said, "Well, we did some accounting, and it turns out that 6% was domestic, and it was based on like opening weekend or what." So anyway, it sounded like they fucked him, but then they gave him $8 million for the rights to the second book, which was kind of just seen as like, okay, we're paying this guy off because we made a lot more money than we thought we would. And the way we wrote the contract was to fuck him anyway, and it worked. But now we're going to give him, and then he died like in 2000 or something. But so that was kind of a weird story. It's like why they ended up with the rights to this movie they really couldn't make, so or didn't intend to.
Yeah, this is a good movie, which I knew, and there's also a lot of things to say, like, this is one of the most overrated movies of all time, and watching it again, it's like, no, this is just a good movie.
Yeah, it's a feel good movie where you don't really feel that good. It's like, well, I'm glad he didn't die. It's kind of
it's like a 4-quadrant movie. Like, you got comedy, you got action, you got drama. There's something for everybody.
Yeah. And if you know some things about history, it's fun. And even if you don't, it explains what it's talking about. So.
Yeah.
But it's basically a walk through the 60s. And then the years of healing that had to come after the 60s. Because that's, in the 60s when we figured out the Jakarta protocols. So that's why we didn't have Vietnam. Yeah, and then next week, not next week. The week after, we'll be doing my favorite Robert Zemeckis movie, Contact.
Yeah, this won Best Picture, Best Actor, probably Best Director, I'm not sure, and then Best Visual Effects. Won a lot of Oscars and then this is also the highest grossing Robert Zemeckis film.
Yeah, this movie This movie made a boatload of money. I think it was almost $700 million by the time it was over.
I think that's worldwide, because I think it's 300 domestic. But
yeah, I'm just looking at the total number here.
Yeah, it was.
Jesus, it jumps up to 800 million when you throw in DVD. Holy crap, they made a lot of money on this movie.
And I think like why it ends up on like overrated lists is because guess what movie this beat for Best Picture?
Which one?
Pulp Fiction.
Oh, well, yeah. If I had to choose between the two, I would probably fall on the side of Pulp Fiction. Yeah, I understand why it won though.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it made everyone feel good.
And just like there's so many lines from this movie that just permeated pop culture for a lot. Like people still say "Run Forrest Run." Like in modern times, like they just use that phrase in like horror movies or just general bullies. Like people still say "Run Forrest Run." It's fucking stupid. It doesn't necessarily mean a fucking thing. Other than like, remember that movie? Like that's what that line means nowadays. And nowadays it's like, no, if you're a modern, if you're like Gen Z, like I don't remember Forrest Gump.
Let's see here.
And you know,
So
life
this
is like
one,
a box
Best
of
Actor,
Oh, go ahead.
Best Actor, Best Director, Best Film Editing, Best Picture, Best Visual Effects, Best Screenplay based on previously published material. Huh. And then it was nominated for
And also
everything else.
this is
Also won Best Supporting Actor, Best Fantasy Film. This is at Saturn Awards.
oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, and this is also like Tom Hanks' second year in a row that he won an Oscar for Best Actor.
yeah.
I believe so. I can't remember the movie he did after this. I think he like almost got a third one. I'm not sure. Do you have it there? Like what movie he
I'm
did after?
I'm looking it up right now. His brother was his stunt double in Forrest Gump.
Yeah, he did a lot of the running scenes and carrying guys in Vietnam.
Let's see. Tom Hanks performances. Can't believe how many movies he's done. And all movies that are
Is
generally
it like
pretty...
would it be like Apollo 13? Would be his next one?
Yes. Well, okay, this is the so he's coming off of Philadelphia. He did Forrest Gump, Apollo 13, Toy Story, That Thing You Do, and then Saving Private Ryan.
Jesus Christ, that is a run.
And then You've Got Mail, Toy Story 2, The Green Mile, Castaway, Road to Perdition. That was a weird one. I liked it. It's weird. Catch Me If You Can. And then we get into the dark era, The Lady Killers. I don't think anyone watched that. The Terminal. I remember that one.
Yeah.
Elvis has left the building. And then The Polar Express, which means I need $25 million. Then The Da Vinci Code. Cars. I'm just going the ones he acted in. Charlie Wilson's War, not a high point. He did a good job.
He's fine in it. Yeah.
Yeah, the actors are all fine in it. They just cut the story up.
Yeah.
Angels and Demons, and Toy Story 3, and Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, and then Cloud Atlas, which was a great performance for him. I
Yeah.
think that was overlooked a lot. Captain Phillips, Saving Mr. Banks, Bridge of Spies, Hologram for the King. Never seen that one.
Yeah, I don't know what that one is.
Something about it's like a comedy about a guy who goes to the Middle East, try to sell Saudi Arabia on holographic technology. That's weird.
It's vaguely remember that.
Sully.
Sully.
That's the one about the guy who put the. And then he does all those the Catholic Church is hiding secrets like the Angels and Demons and Inferno.
Yeah.
Um,
That's the Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci
trilogy.
Code. And there's one called The Circle, which I never heard of.
Oh yeah, that's like the tech thing. It has like the chick from Harry Potter in it. It's supposed to be like Evil Apple or something like that, or Evil Google, or Google or Apple. Just
Okay.
Yeah, it's like some tech firm thing that he's in. Yeah, I don't know if I didn't hear great things about it, but yeah, I remember that.
And they did the one where he played the newspaper people where they published the fake stuff about George W. Bush, and they all lost their jobs over it. About how he didn't serve in the National Guard, and they had all this fake paperwork. It's like, look, see right here, he was barely there, and then they published the real paperwork. It's like, oh, we're fired. Then Toy Story 4, and then Greyhound,
Okay, yeah, that's the latest one. Or is there
And then-
another one after that?
Borat. I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
Or he was in that somehow.
He's probably like in the back. Like they probably interviewed him or something. He didn't know what was going on.
News of the World. That's the Western.
Oh yeah.
And then he's doing a film called BIOS, which is a tech film of some kind, because BIOS is a computing term, I guess.
Yeah.
Elvis,
Binary input output system.
and then Elvis and Pinocchio.
I believe that's what that means.
I don't know.
Oh, Pinocchio. That's the Robert Zemeckis. Is he going back to animation?
I think these are the live action Disney. Hey, you
Oh,
need.
Yeah,
money.
because his latest one is that Witches or whatever. So,
Oh, okay.
which I think is on HBO Max or something, or Hulu or some shit. There's one of those COVID rescues, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But we'll get to it. Maybe I don't know. After Castaway, we have a lot of movies to skip in his catalog that we don't want to watch.
Yeah, I mean,
Nobody wants to watch his animated ones.
Well, I've seen them all because Grayson was into them. At least the Polar Express.
Yeah.
And I've seen them all, and it's like, oh yeah, they're fine, but I'm not. Can I get 25 minutes of
I don't know,
conversation?
there's some things I appreciate about like the action in Beowulf, but it's also just looks weird and it isn't interesting.
Yes, we're deep into the uncanny valley at that point. It's like I want to believe in these characters, but they don't look real to me. So, yeah, I guess BIOS is a dark one. It's one of the co-writers of the Blade Runner script, Ivor Powell, wrote it. Like Tom Hanks is one of the last people on Earth because people are leaving Earth for some reason, and he's like an old man, and he invents an android to keep him and his dog company. That's because he's going to walk across the United States before he dies. But there's no one really left, so that'll either be good or terrible.
It kind of reminds me. There's like I think it's on Netflix. There's like a sci-fi George Clooney movie where he's like the last man on Earth, and he has to like, and like all these Ark ships have died except for one, and he has to try to intercept it, and he's like dying of cancer, and he's like in an
Yeah, that's when he's like in the Arctic Research Station
Yeah.
or whatever, and there's some kind of storms that are destroying the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it. It's dumb.
Okay.
It's a great performance, but the story's weird. It drags in the middle like really hard. Like it's like, are we doing
Like the
anything?
premise seemed interesting, and like it was based on a book, and so I was like, but I also heard bad things, so I was like, maybe there's something good here. I don't know. I never finished watching it, but that was it seemed like a good premise from the outset.
Yeah, it wasn't. It got boring.
All
for
right,
me.
well, I don't have to bother watching it then.
I
So.
was building a model when I was doing it, and when even I'm like, okay, come on, you've got to distract someone. All right, well, that's all I got for tonight.
All right,
This week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
this is Conlon. Goodbye, America.